Solutions, and he has held a variety of sales positions, selling everything that you can think of. He is and he's also a camera operator for ESPN in his spare time. So he came up with this new technology, and it's called Dycap Media Solutions, and it developed.
Stay away from the.
Me?
Stay away from each other.
Okay. Oh, we have to be away from each other.
Okay. So anyway, he is also going to be one of the competitors in the shootout this year. We have sort of changed up the format today. Noah Miyazaki had suggested that what we might do periodically and perhaps on a quarterly basis is to have some investors come in and critique the presentations of the startup company that is currently seeking investments. And so this is an opportunity for you all as well to get a glimpse into what they think is important. They're not going to be horrible and their critique. They're going to be a little bit gentle, but informative. So we're very fortunate. We have Jamie Grooms here. We have Dan Rua, and we have Augie Lai. So with that, I'm going to let Armand begin the presentation.
Thank you. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everybody coming today. My name is Armand. I am CEO of Dycap Media Solutions. And really what I want to harp on is that the top 3 activities people do with their time are sleep, eat, and watch video. Video is huge. There is a sensational demand for video content. Cisco predicts that by 2019, 90% of all internet traffic will be video. And this huge demand for video content is disrupting every industry on the planet. But no industry is being shaken up quite as much as education. Colleges and universities absolutely need video recordings of their courses. In a world where there's a shrinking number of teachers, video recordings allow them to expand the student population, be more competitive with other schools, and provide a huge value to the students. Students are willing to pay an additional $5,000 a semester to have video recordings of their courses. But the reason all classes aren't filmed today isn't because of the camera cost. It's actually the labor. The camera operator is way too expensive to scale across an entire organization. And that is why Dycap is introducing the Perfect Track. At Dycap, we develop software that automates cameras using facial recognition to remove the need for camera operators. The Perfect Track, the software camera operator. The Perfect Track automates cameras as if an operator was there the entire time. We are allowing cameras to think for themselves. And the timing for the software camera operator couldn't be better. Thousands of cameras are being added to classrooms every year. And over the next 10 years, we're looking at a $9 billion global market potential. And that's just in education. How we're reaching these customers is actually through different strategies of attending trade shows, blog posting, of course, email marketing, and channel sales. We came up with these strategies after interviewing literally over 100 potential end users and found the way they like to buy and the best ways to reach them. The big reason Dycap is going to get a huge chunk of this market is because of our patent-pending facial recognition and the fact that we are integratable with any pan, tilt, zoom camera. This is something our customers love. We are bringing them the camera operator in the form of software, really healing their pain points of video and making it infinitely more scalable. When you compare us against our direct competition in the market, we dominate. Dycap is the only company in the world for broadcast video recordings that does not require tracking beacons, can have multiple subjects in the frame, and is plug and play with pan, tilt, zoom cameras. This is huge. Our biggest competitor, Vadio, is actually a customer of Dycap's. They develop an infrared tracking necklace that subjects wear, and their cameras will track this infrared light. Multiple problems with that. The biggest one, nobody wants to wear a tracking beacon when they're teaching physics. And Dycap has partnered with Vadio. They found it absolutely essential to leverage Dycap's technology because it is the future. One Beyond, they have developed an auto-tracking technology that uses facial detection. This is a very basic technology we've incorporated into the Perfect Track. And stat for stat, line for line, it is no surprise that Dycap won Infocom 2016's most innovative product. Infocom, a global audio-visual trade show with tens of thousands of attendees. And they said, yep, Dycap. Dycap's Perfect Track is the most innovative product here. And that attracted attention from juggernauts like Sony and Canon and 10 other global camera manufacturers that can't wait to do productizations and integrations as we move forward. How we're reaching our customers is through direct sales and, of course, channel sales. Dycap leverages two types of channel partners: manufacturing representatives and distributors. Since June, Dycap has formed relationships in over 26 states with manufacturing representatives. Soon, that'll be 37 by the end of October. We also already have a national distributor, and these relationships will only prove to be more fruitful as more education and more brand awareness going forward. Both channel types will sell to dealers, and then dealers will sell to the rest of the audiovisual space, which of course includes higher education, business enterprise, and houses of worship. Dycap's laser focus and what we've been able to rally our channel partners behind is targeting higher education. We will dominate higher ed, then expand to enterprise, then expand to houses of worship to give Dycap and our partners a monopoly on the audio-visual space for auto-tracking technologies. The team behind this was, of course, responsible for this alignment. And over on the far right, we have our engineers, Jeff, Patrick, and Kumar. These gentlemen are talented when it comes to machine learning, computer vision technologies, and are just gifted at incorporating that with audio-visual technologies of the day. Besides the technical aspect, they're very entrepreneurial and have had their own business endeavors in a past life before Dycap. On the left side, there's myself and Jordan. We do all the business development for Dycap, and we're great at those roles. But what gives us an unfair advantage is that we are camera operators for ESPN. I've been a camera operator for ESPN for over 5 years. And in 2014, ESPN ranked me the #1 collegiate cameraman in the country. A huge honor. And as a team, we know exactly what our technology means to change the businesses and the lives of our customers. We are excited to bring them the Perfect Track as we move forward. The mentors and advisors that we have are really numerous, but if we had to narrow it down to two, it would be Martin Chaffel, the founder and chairman of AVI-SPL, the world's largest audio-visual dealer for over 30 years in a row. I mean, I couldn't picture a better person to know and have guidance from. On the far left side, we have Tech Wildcatters, the #1 startup accelerator for business-to-business adventures, and they're based in Dallas, Texas. I actually just came back from Dallas to be here with you guys this morning, and both the interactions have given us a solid foundation to scale in our first industry of audio-visual as we go forward. That includes revenue. Dycap captures revenue by selling one-time licenses of the Perfect Track. We make about a 79% margin on this, and we also have subscriptional services for tech support as well as the Perfect Track Plus. And we've done the research and have interviewed, like I said, over 100 potential customers. We can expect a 60 to 80% adoption rate on these subscriptional services. And since the technology's completion in April, Dycap has captured over $20,000 in revenue and has deployed over 10 units from Florida to California. Once we close our seed round, we'll really be able to scale this number and sell over 400 Perfect Tracks within our first year. As years go by and we build more channel partnerships, have more brand awareness, and the great results of compounding subscriptional business, Dycap's valuation by year 3 will be over $50 million. And the partners that we've been working with are absolutely pumped about this technology. There's multiple exit opportunities. In fact, camera manufacturers and large industry players have already expressed interest. Both PTZ Optics and Vadio are paying customers of Dycap and our Perfect Track solution. It's only the beginning. It's very exciting, and education is really just the first stop. And to get to this point, we're actually going to need our seed round. The great part is that Dycap is already in due diligence with an angel group, the New World Angels, the largest angel investment group in the United States, in Florida, has agreed to be our lead investor. And right now, we're just going through the paperwork and, of course, the due diligence questions. And we're going to be using over 65% of this capital to really scale sales and marketing. We've achieved product market fit. We're generating revenue, and now it is time to really scale. Future markets, of course, include broadcast industries for sportscasting, where my background is, and then past broadcast industry, we can work in security, we can also work in virtual reality, all for image tracking and image processing in real time. And there are tons of applications. Really, wherever there's a camera, Dycap software can be scaled to. We are just starting with audiovisual, and education is just the beginning. If nothing else, we're going to succeed because of our team. We have an amazing organization. The 5 of us are the type of guys that are willing to sleep under the desk. We have a market that is bursting at the seams, and technology that is disruptive to its core, that turns labor into software, making video infinitely more scalable across all verticals. This is just the beginning, and I thank you very much for your time. My name is Armand, and we are Dycap.
So my first question is, anytime I see something selling to universities, it scares me. Slow, archaic process typically. Tell me why that's not the case here. What is it? A, what is it that helps on the buying process? And B, what is it that you're displacing? Why is there budget there to buy your thing versus what they're already doing?
What it comes down to is the fact that we are saving them money on their labor and allowing them to multiply their efforts. So you can pay a camera operator on average $50K a year, or you can buy a Perfect Track that'll pay for itself within 2 months. So the fact is that colleges and universities absolutely need video recordings of their courses. It attracts more students, they're competitive against other schools, and there's not enough teachers to really go around. So having more video recordings of their courses really allows them to meet the needs of the students. And
so why is it not sufficient for them to just have a camera somewhere in the room that's kind of capturing the front of the room and the board and that sort of thing?
So there's actually been a shift away from just like stocked cameras because of 2 reasons. One, the subject will walk right out of the frame in most cases, where if the camera is close, they'll just walk right out of the podium area. And then 2, if it's far enough back to actually capture the entire board area, it kind of defeats the purpose because in most cases the writing is just too small. A perfect example of this actually is StudyEdge. They are a paying customer of ours, and they had a camera solution that was just locked off and was not moving. Now, when we went in there, we were able to replace their solution with a pan tilt zoom camera that had motors to actually move. And of course, equipping that with the Perfect Track has made their online viewership soar. They've been having great results from their students, and they couldn't be happier. Now, as far as like the bureaucracy and how we're getting around that, leveraging the channel partners and giving them the Perfect Track is huge. We have the most innovative product in the industry, objectively speaking, and they are loving the opportunity to go ahead and sell that. They know the decision makers, and finding the right person in education is like 75% of the battle.
How much money to date have you raised?
So $55,000. We've bootstrapping. We've won competitions. Half of that's been competitions. And $15,000 from our accelerator program.
Is that mentored? Has he put any money in?
So actually, Marty has not put any money in. He is going to be like introducing us. Well, he has introduced us to Vadio, and we don't want to take his money, truth be told.
Yes, you do.
Why?
It builds confidence. You got a mentor at the table who knows the space well. It helps you raise money. Taking his money helps you raise money. A comment. The way you're answering questions right now is actually pretty cool. You have a skill set that you're overusing, in my opinion. Your enthusiasm is through the roof. It's a great technique, a great tool. That whole presentation, it was on the entire time. So as you do your presentation, you're missing critical spots of emphasis because of that. If you can modulate your great skill that you have here, I don't want to underestimate how valuable that skill is. But if it's up here all the time, it's not impactful.
I think also investors are always, they're looking for sales capability, but also looking for authenticity. And so sometimes taking it down a notch starts to give them a little more trust in what you're saying versus they feel like you're just always selling.
Okay.
Now, the way you answer his question is perfect. And so in your presentation, there's key, you're a salesperson. You have trial closes, right?
Yeah.
There's things in there that are that valuable. That's when you use that tactic. You gotta learn to manage yet great asset. It's a very powerful thing. But I would go back and talk to your mentor and say, pony up some money, minimum 25 to 50K.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't understand just the value of having the money more so than the financial resource.
It's tremendous. It's not about just him at the table. It's him at the table without his money. It's not speaking. Do you have a PowerPoint to hand out?
A PowerPoint, I mean, I have a digital copy.
If you want to meet some potential investors tomorrow, I'll take it with me if you want me to.
I appreciate that.
Well, why did you come here today?
I came here today for this feedback. There's also, the opportunity to present in front of Gain, really. But there's a few reasons, honestly. Gain is, of course, having the shootout. We're competing in that within the next month. This is obviously a prequel to that in my mind. So understanding what I need to improve on, huge. And opportunity to, meet a person who's going to talk to investors tomorrow. You never know who you're going to meet at these things, right?
So when you're, if I'm an investor, what is your goal in talking to me? What's your goal? You walk in that door, I walk in this door. What's your goal for that?
To give you an opportunity to be a part of something that is going to revolutionize how video is captured in the process of getting you a great return for your investors.
Take it back a notch. That's date number 3. Date number 1 is you have to build credibility and likability. And you have to get one thing done with that presentation is to get my attention. You're not going to give me an opportunity, David. Someone has to like you, know you before they're going to write a check. So take it back. It also goes along with that tactic of modulating yourself. You lose some credibility by staying up here. Bring it down. You want to get to know someone. When you answer his question again, that personal conversation is much more impactful than your presentation. So your job is to get to know someone and let them get to know you personally, not to get a check.
So, where's the prototype?
Prototype is actually in the car.
Yeah, it should have been up there set up with a display TV over there, showing exactly how it works and how it's tracking you, how awesome it is compared to the competition.
Yeah.
Because, slides are easy, and most savvy investors want to see substance, and nothing does that better than a live demo.
Yeah.
So,
Remember Alex said from Feather that they pretended that they
Well, that's
had
them.
everything working.
and that's an app. This is very much
Yeah.
different than an app. An app can oftentimes get away with a wireframe, but this is actually almost a physical product, a moving physical product that has an output.
Yeah.
And it would be just impressive seeing a screen right there, the camera back there tracking you the whole time. I mean, that's what I want to see. One other question is, why face recognition?
So face recognition is just one aspect that we use.
Yeah.
So it uses edge and motion as well, but I'd rather, instead of just saying recognition software and confusing people, I just say facial recognition because it's a buzzword, and then I answer that question more so here.
Yeah, so as opposed to a necklace, I mean, I'm looking at some solutions online right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like little pots, some of them, that are no different than the microphone system you're wearing.
Yeah.
What are the advantages to
So the little pucks and just the necklaces themselves, the issue with that, and they actually like have these installed just down the block in Heavener, is that nobody wants to wear them. And like that's really the biggest issue.
What about your
'cause-
working microphone system? That's not too bad.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that I'm also presenting. If I could have the choice, I would rather just yell and not have this hooked up. But besides that, I mean, the fact that teachers don't want to engage with it is the biggest like aspect. If you have a great technology, but you can't get people to actually use the technology, then what's
Yeah, so this goes to another point. Is, most facial recognition software, there's a training for
Yeah.
it. You have to train the computer how to view you.
Yeah.
How long is that training for?
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Yeah, that actually happens with like just right before. You can even do unknown guest mode, so it'll track the largest face in case you didn't want to be trained in and didn't have the time. But you know, the training aspect, it'll take 600 photos in a matter of 2 minutes. And then you can, save that as a database. You can schedule them in and just say, okay, track, Augie at 2 p.m., track Armand at 3 p.m. And then you can even go ahead and set the composition.
So it gets a template of your face. It tries to remember. It does.
And use pattern recognition.
Yeah. So does people grow a beard? People grow out their hair? Does it adapt over the months, over the weeks?
So we are.
have to retrain it.
So, like specifically with the beard, like it's right above the mouth and like the eyes. That's where the recognition happens itself. So we haven't actually had an issue with somebody just growing out a beard, like a mountain man beard. Now, the neural networks aspect of actually being able to learn about the person over time is definitely something we're going down the road of, but with the form factor we're presenting, the price point gets too high for the target market to actually adopt. So that's the issue with not using neural networks. But as we go into just future roads with broadcast and security and the like, we'll be able to like use neural networks because the price point that they're willing to pay will be significantly higher.
Do you know what neural network is?
Artificial neural networks?
You know how they work?
Yeah, it mimics the brain, and
Why?
yeah, it mimics the. Okay, so it mimics the brain, and it's like basically
I
there's
understand this.
No, I know you are. But, you're also my tech mentor, so this is good stuff. But yeah, it's basically we're going to be using forward feed neural networks, and just doing like loops of training. So input, processing, and then just getting better outputs, and then that's going to take time to train over time, but. Part of what we're doing in this early period is building up the facial data through the pattern recognition, and then training that will be exponentially easier.
Okay.
On that note, on that neural network note, do you use something that's already out there, like TensorFlow or something like that? Use a public domain package for the neural network, like TensorFlow?
So we actually are not like commercializing neural network technology with the Perfect Track as of yet. We're relying on computer vision and other libraries for tracking.
So you're using those regular libraries, so it's a straight Gaussian kernel.
I'm sorry, I didn't
A straight Gaussian kernel?
I wouldn't be able to answer that confidently, honestly. Yeah.
So your partnerships are kind of both intriguing and a little troubling. So on the
Sure.
intriguing side, congratulations on getting those partnerships before you've had hardly any investments. It's really impressive. On the troubling side, sometimes companies that lean on partnerships, they don't control their own destiny, right? The partner has its own priorities. They motivate their salespeople who have 10 other products in their bag, and you can't drive success. And so how are you dealing with that now, or how do you plan to deal with that?
Yeah, great question. And by no means are we relying on channel partners to do all the work. Just because we are, I guess, the vendor in this scenario, and we originate the technology, we're not just going to hand it over to salesmen and expect them to do all the work. The bottom line is nobody's going to appreciate the technology as much in the early days as much as we will because we put the work in. So that partnerships that we have now, there's going to be a lot of education and hand-holding specifically in the early months to get them up to speed and get them comfortable with presenting that technology. We're very much still meeting with people directly. The channel partner right before they sell to the end user and the end users themselves. So Texas A&M and Notre Dame, like these are people that we've been talking to that, you know, can't wait to have a Perfect Track demo in their hands. You know, we're building up the demand, and then we can show this to the partners. So then they're like, well, I got to get in on this too, you know, and that's how we're going to drive demand with them, is by driving demand with the end users. And our bottleneck is not being able to support them because of the cost of goods that we have within the mini computer. The black box costs $750. The software is, of course, marginal to just reproduce, and that cost of goods is a big bulk of where our investment would be going into to scale. Yes, sir.
Every product or technology has some weaknesses to it, and in a competitive marketplace, your competitors of alternate technologies will be trying to focus on your weaknesses and their strengths. So my question is, what are the weaknesses or the cons about your product, and how will you overcome them in the marketplace?
Absolutely. So the biggest issue that we have is just people saying that that's not real. You know, that doesn't exist. So obscurity and doubt are our biggest weaknesses. Once we actually show it to a potential buyer, install it into their system, give them a demo trial, they love it. And you know, we've gotten some great results at Heavener as well as the Study Edge down the block. And Study Edge is actually a repeat customer as well. So I guess the brand issue is our biggest, and now technologically, I mean, there really is no downside to the Perfect Track when you compare it to other technologies that are in the market. We are really going from, we're really going from 0 to 1. We're not duplicating a technology. We're not just, you know, repackaging something. Like, this is a new technology in a new industry that is head and shoulders above what competitors have. We can, you know, do what they do or do what they can't do exponentially better. So from a technological standpoint, the Perfect Track is better than anything in the market.
I was just curious, and I'm approaching this from a non-technical side, so it's armchair thought as opposed to knowing about your industry.
Yeah.
But versus a tag, if somebody said I could buy a tag system or I could buy the facial recognition system, would, you know, do the tag companies have an opportunity to say, well, you know, in different lighting scenarios, or if flash cameras are going off, or if there's outdoors and clouds are passing, you know, our tag is better than yours, and if they can say that, you know, that was my question really. How do you overcome that?
Are you saying, I'm sorry, sir, are you saying tag?
Like the infrared tag, or you know, where they're wearing the necklace.
Well, the issue with infrared outside is that it wouldn't work because of the sun. The sun has, you know, infrared rays, so their technology can't work outside. So that's a huge limiting factor, whereas our technology absolutely can, because it just depends on the person. Now, in flashing lights, I typically aren't you know, in the environment that we're working in. The great thing, and why we specifically chose to go into the audiovisual space and higher education, is that it's a pretty stable environment. It's not going to change lighting conditions, and you know, if they do, the technology will then go to the home position mode. So then just reset to a wide shot, and then let's say the professor turns off the lights, you know, for a video to play. The Perfect Track will just go to a wide shot, you know, show the video. Once the professor turns on the lights, all we need is 8 by 8 pixels, and we'll recognize the face once more, and then just continue the tracking with no delay or stop down. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Stephanie.
So, hi, Jamie handed me the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you, Armand. I'd like to ask a question about your education market sales. Dan brought it up, but you know, I have some experience selling into educational markets, higher ed, and my question is, do you know how they make decisions and buy products? You've priced this at $3,500. Was that strategic? Because my understanding is an equipment purchase in some educational markets under $5,000 is a decision that individual tech people in higher education can make without going through committees. So can you talk about the strategy a little bit deeper with selling into the education market?
Absolutely. So the 3,500 price point is what we wholesale that at. By the time it gets to the actual industry themselves, they're paying $6,000. So the decision, of course, as you know firsthand, Stephanie, it varies from school to school depending on, really the size and scope. Florida Tech is going to make different decisions than the University of Florida. And that's why it's absolutely key that we, drive demand with them. And we're using sales strategies of basically a top-down referral approach.
How does it cyclical? What's the cycle?
The sales cycle also varies. So for larger institutions like UF, it can be 6 months. For smaller institutions like University of St. Thomas, it can be 1 month. So the sales cycle will vary depending on the institution that we're going after, and how they make decisions will also vary. But the strategy we're going with, of course, is going direct to raise demand with them, and then relying on more of the relationships that are built to grow and scale. So in the beginning, we'll be able to do a lot of the pushing ourselves, and then once the demand is generated, we'll be able to really have help from our channel partners start to grow.
Who makes the decision to make this purchase within the higher
CIOs, AV staff members, IT staff members. The educational gambit, titles vary. They generally handle education technologies, and then that will go under the CFO. So CFO, CIO, AV staff members, and then generally for larger institutions like the University of Florida, it's a college by college decision. Smaller universities will just be one person over the entire school.
So you chose to raise $300,000 or $600,000. Why that number, and what rounds do you have planned behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually are going to be putting over 65% of that into sales and marketing. We've done the breakdown, and the vast majority of that is going to be going into really just trade shows, travel. I had an actual breakdown. Let me see if I have it in the... Oh, dang. Yeah, so I can send that with the actual pitch deck, the use of funds. That is an actual Excel sheet that exists.
So how did you come up with that number?
We sat down and we actually said, what do we need to really hit $1 million plus in revenue? And that was the target, and we built backwards from there. We actually predicted that we'll need $540K, and then we said, okay, 10% of the raise probably should be for that extra padding buffer, and that's where the $600,000 mark actually came from.
All that's flawed in my mind. I think you need a couple $1 million. There's things you don't know about that are coming your way, and you're not prepared for them. So under-financing a company is irresponsible.
Well, to answer your second question, follow-on rounds of funding, this is just our seed round of funding. And we plan on raising our Series A, which will probably be $1.5 million.
Still too light. The marketing, you have one chance to introduce your company to the public. And you're missing a PR opportunity by not spending more money. There's a lot of competition you hear around the room. It doesn't matter sometimes if you're the better product. You can't count on that. You got to be the better viewed, the better seen, the more seen, the everything seen company. And that costs a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And it's not in your budget.
Well, I guess, that would just go into a further conversation. So the hockey puck that Augie mentioned, that customer, that company is a customer of ours. And we're using the sales channels they've used to build up their entire network. So we're doing pretty aggressive marketing on just what we could possibly do to get traction and be known within the market. Yeah.
Have you built a startup before to 50 million in sales before?
I can't say that I have.
There's a lot of things that are coming your way you don't know. Building an enterprise is not cheap. And what I'm hearing you're trying to do, you want a $50 million value company in about 3 years. The enterprise behind that $50 million is more expensive than your rounds of financing.
We should talk more after.
Not a problem.
Yeah, so going back to the tech side.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just doing some quick searches. There's a
Yeah.
company called Solo Shot.
Mhm.
Their hockey puck is 1.4 ounces. It's
Yeah.
tiny. It's like this big. It's 40 millimeters.
Yeah.
It uses radio frequencies, not light.
Mhm.
How are you going to combat that competition?
So Solo Shot is really the consumer version of what we're doing. It's great for surfers. It's great for practice. Just running drills and such. But time and time again, it has been shown that even if it's a little sticker that you put on your ID or a fob lapel that you wear, people aren't going to wear that in the. Yeah, I know.
You put in your pocket.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But I couldn't tell you why, but people will not want to adopt the technology if they have to do anything. The fobs.
I have to stand in front of your camera for 2 minutes.
Yeah, but that's only just one time in the beginning of the semester.
This thing is literally a piece of candy you put in your pocket and just walk around and done.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I understand where you're coming from, but it's proven time and again that the market itself won't want to wear any tracking beacons. Solo Shot is also going after the consumer base, whereas the technology we have here, and this is the great part about Dycap, is that we can work with the juggernauts like Sony, Canon, that aren't going to make a Solo Shot type of product. So in order to compete with a technology like that, they're going to need Dycap, and that makes us exponentially more valuable to them and really to the market as well, especially because the market already has cameras installed that we'd plug right into.
So what are you doing to reach them? Canon and Sony. I didn't see that in your distribution plan and your initial marketing plan.
So I included them just as potential acquirers, and Sony and Canon.
I skipped over them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Why isn't that part of your initial strategy to get some sort of venture going with Sony or Canon or even a big audio-visual company that supplies cameras and things to universities as part of your initial strategy?
So we actually. Yeah, I mean, so Sony and Canon, we actually have made an introduction to Canon, and Sony has been interested in talking to us. But the thing about it is, these are big organizations with tons of decision makers, and that's really been like slowing us down. Now, camera manufacturers have absolutely been interested, and that's why Vadio, the creator of the hockey puck and the PTZ optics, are customers of ours. They absolutely see value in integrating the Perfect Track solution into their cameras, and we can only work with so many things at a time. Just because resources are so scarce. So while we definitely have partnership opportunities with these large organizations, there's a big difference between a Sony and a Canon and all the 20 other little guys that we can work with.
Yeah, but if you're going to build a demand, that's valuable to them too.
No, absolutely. But there's only so many, unfortunately, hours in the day, and we have to be very diligent and effective with what we're going to do to make the company valuable to the target market and to partners.
So Armand, I'm a professor, right?
Yeah.
So I sit in front of a camera sometimes and talk, right? But there are some times where I want to focus on me, and there are some other times when I want to focus on the projector or whatever I'm projecting on. Does this solution, can I say point here and zoom in on what I'm writing or something like that? Or does it work like that?
So in most cases, like when you have the video feed of the professor coming out, and students can view that remotely or live streaming that, there's also another feed that's in the corner that actually shows the projector and what's going on in the slides. Now, we are looking into RealSense by Intel, which is gesture recognition. So you can point and the camera will react with that and recognize that as a gesture. That's down the road. We haven't incorporated that yet. That would be a solution just really all within the Perfect Track. In most cases, the professor can just walk out of the tracking area. When the camera resets to home position, it'll then show the whiteboard as well.
Have you ever considered that one of your customers could be the government?
Absolutely.
So the Department of Defense, particularly the Navy, that in their training systems divisions?
Yeah.
That because there's you could probably cultivate that customer through cooperative R&D agreements that don't cost you a lot of money, but
Good
prove
idea.
the concept, and they move you then into acquisition, and they'll help you get the supply chains you need, manufacturing that you need to supply, 140,000 troops or whatever, I'm just making that number up.
Yeah.
But you might want to consider that as an option as well.
Okay, and given your background, Chris, when we just talked, I'd actually like to talk to you more about that. We definitely can use the technology in government and defense arenas, but that's even more bureaucratic than schools. So that's why we haven't been attacking that head on. And with that comes different, channel strategies that we would have to be incorporating as well. Yeah. This is great stuff, guys. Yes.
So studies have shown that enemy combatants prefer not to wear tracking devices. But also professors also don't like tracking devices.
Yeah.
So if a professor has a tracking device system and they forget that device, what happens with your competitor systems? They don't have a key bar with a hockey puck or a piece of candy or whatever it is.
It doesn't work at all, and that's really what the issue is. It's great that we live in a college town because this is happening literally down the block. Professors will forget to wear it or take it home by accident or just outright refuse in most cases to wear it. And that tracking beacon is essential for their technology to function within a pretty contained environment.
So you might want to focus on instead of refusing to wear it, I think it's more likely, taking it home, forgetting to bring it back.
Okay.
Over the course of a semester, that seems like that would happen a lot.
Yeah.
Like name badges.
Yeah.
Because to say that they refuse is almost like, I think that's more understandable to all of us, that, yeah, you need it, but you left it in the car, now you gotta, record it.
That's something I'm having trouble articulating is that, humans we're strange creatures. And we'll do a lot of things that don't make any sense. When there's an easier solution, but yeah, they just don't want to wear tracking beacons. And the tracking technology is also double our cost, so that's also something. Yeah. Got anything from Yagi?
Yeah, I would. Well, I'm looking at the competition.
Yeah.
I can tell you one thing the competition does is they're hyper focused on one particular thing or another thing. One thing you could possibly do is have an integrated, complete solution. And what I mean by that is a video solution, a microphone solution. And I really like David's idea. That's absolutely right, because PowerPoint's half of a presentation. The ability for the professor to, on the fly, push a button and it goes to a second video feed, which could be a PowerPoint presentation. And he literally could be a one-man video guru, producer, all in one. When in the past it would take 3 people, a professor, maybe a cameraman, and then someone splicing video, video editor. But a system where it's all inclusive could all be done by the professor themselves. He has a microphone in his hand, he's being tracked, there's a video feed, hits a button and it goes straight to a PowerPoint that's being recorded, hits a button, goes back to him. That would save a lot of time and a lot of money. People would pay a lot of money for that. That's just a thought.
Yeah.
What happens when somebody turns around?
So that's
Facial recognition. How many times do professors go right on the board?
great question, Stephanie. So, like I mentioned to Augie earlier, the facial recognition is just one aspect of what we do. So we also use edge and motion recognition. So when the person turns around, it uses the corners of their head and upper body, and we'll still track them as they move around. So, as the professor writes on the whiteboard, it'll still actually pan and tilt to follow them.
You might have answered this or talked about this, but how do you protect yourself from me finding 3 super smart dudes and doing what you did and better?
It's really going to boil down to just the network and execution of the technology. Any technology, can be duplicatable. If somebody can do it, somebody else can do it as well. So what's stopping people from doing that with Dycap is the fact that we are approaching this with the experience and background of being camera operators ourselves. So, I mean, I can't think of another camera operator that would want to, put themselves out of a job. And being able to, yeah, Jamie.
Terrible answer.
It's a hard question.
You have a patent.
That was actually what I was getting at.
So I think that's even, respectfully, I think that's even a worse answer because patents, I mean, a software patent and the patent on like the systems and applications we have, I mean, that's great for showing investors, but if there's anything that I feel is really duplicatable, it's a software patent where people can just go look online, see how you did it, and do a hack around.
So there is a better answer using the patent, I think, is that you have certain claims in your patent. Your job is to continue to build a fence and integrate different claims into that, and that costs another $2,000.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's expensive.
That's one. The other one to me is you spend another $500,000 in marketing, be first in market, and be in there in a big way and not a organic growth way. Not, all these competition competitors coming online, it is not a free space. You're under financing it. You have to be a bigger spend to be who you want to be. So there is a better answer within the intellectual property fence, but then it comes down to execution.
I mean, isn't execution the only answer? Because,
No, it's not.
I mean, well, Lyft was first to Uber.
A little bit on patent, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
There are certain things you may be able to find that they can't do that are required. You don't know everything today. There are certain ways to skin these cats that are cheaper.
Yeah.
So digging into that component should not be taken lightly. And it's at the end of the day, it's not a save all, but it may save 20% of why you're more meaningful than somebody else. That 20% helps you sell your product over that one. So all of those advantages collectively with execution are valuable. But if you don't go after them and you minimize them like you just did there, then you're going to lose that potential advantage. Every little bit helps in this fight. It is a fight.
I'd also say that just, this is more kind of just fundraising finesse. But
Yeah.
the way you answer that question, I know you're just kind of having a freewheeling conversation. If an investor, potential investor is asking those types of questions, then it's part of what they put value on in a company and part of how they think companies should be built. And so just make sure you have an awareness of that concept. You don't have to win the argument on the topic. In some ways, you need to actually listen and see what that investor values. And the long-term answer is, to be honest, you're going to get investors on board with you.
Yeah.
And then you're going to run a strategy that's some combination of how you think about it and how your board thinks about it, et cetera. And so patent may play a big part of that. But be careful of trying to kind of win the argument on that, particularly from a fundraising standpoint, because part of what you're doing in fundraising is listening at what those investors seem to value in an opportunity. And there's very simple ways to just kind of say, you know what, that's a really good point. It's not something, we don't have much money right now, we haven't put a lot of money towards that, but it's definitely something we could consider, right? And it allows you to kind of push that conversation down the road.
Okay.
The second thing on just kind of fundraising block and tackling, it sounds like you've got New World Angels in the process.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage you, you're probably already doing this, just make sure you've got the other angel groups somewhere in the process, right? Because they take so much guidance from other groups, right? It's all angel groups are nervous about doing a deal on their own. And so if they feel like you're making progress there, we'll move each group faster. And then the other thing I'd say is never expect the angel group to kind of get through the process on their own and on their own time. You still own the job of like pushing them every step of the way, because they'll get in their own way, they'll just take longer, and it only takes them having another meeting where another cool entrepreneur shows up for them to lose interest in what you're doing. And so you just need to kind of drive that.
Gotcha. Thanks, Dan. That makes sense.
I wasn't all right to check.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just one more. So, I've seen in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've seen you pivot one idea to this, and that's great. See progress. But investors always want to see future progress, and there's no mention of future products. The reality is, it's rare that the first product is going to make your company money. Oftentimes, it just breaks even. It's the second and the third product that makes the company the big bucks. And I don't see any future. 2 years from now, we're designing this. 3 years from now, we're going to design this. That's something that a lot of investors want to see, is that forward progress.
Okay.
On the product side.
Thanks, Augie.
One last comment? Jamie, any more?
Yeah, one more. I mean, from what you've said, I think you should go to AI investors, people that know, because you're going into a new market, 21st century sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of investors in regular technology products and things don't fully appreciate how deep learning replaces labor costs. And so that's a difficult hurdle. I found that's a difficult hurdle to jump over. Some people just aren't aware. So if they don't have that in their consciousness, you can't explain it to them. You can't give it to them. But there are at least I can think of 50 investors of venture capital size that would understand that value proposition and would be very interested in what you have.
I would love introductions. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I have a contact here. You already have mine, so this is a secret one.
Nice.
And we would like very much to thank you and provide you with a game pen.
Thank you very much, Lee.
Best of luck. I've watched him improve over a period of time as well, so keep it up.
Definitely.
Thanks.